Hey everyone, I'm now going to put the valve body back together for 5 HP 19 transmission. This is the channel plate. It's got lots of little plastic pieces that are all colour coded. There's little ball valves and plungers and lots of little things that make sure when you're putting this all together that everything goes in the correct position. That's obviously pretty important. Once everything's there and you've checked it, double checked it again, then we're just going to put our gasket on. Once the gasket is on, we'll then put the spacer plate on. Make sure that gasket is nicely aligned, and then the first thing we're always going to put on is the valve body with the big dowel in it. If you don't put that in first, everything won't be aligned correctly. So that's what I'm going to do. That just plonks in there. When you also do this, we've got the manual selector valve here. You can see that little knob actually has to fit in this groove. So as you're feeding down this dowel, make sure the groove of that goes in there correctly. Once it's there, you can move that manual selector valve, check that that's okay, and then you can just put in that single bolt in there. Now we're going to put on the other large valve body. You can just sit that on the right way around. Now I'm not going to go through the nausea of putting all of these bolts back in because there's just too many of them. Obviously all the bolts for these need to go in and be correctly torqued. Now what I can do is put on our solenoids. Like we saw before, there are 3 EDS solenoids. I'm not sure if you can see, but each of these holes, there's 3 here that are the same, this one on this end, and those 2 are also the same. So they can only fit in one place. If you try to put that in there, it just won't go, whereas it'll slot nicely. Now you don't need to number these because they're all interchangeable, so all the black ones can go in any of them where the black one came from at the start. Now with these clips, these actually have a slight bend in them. The bend needs to face towards the valve body. If it doesn't do that, then what's going to happen is it's not actually going to be pushing these in. The way to test after you've actually put these small bolts in is to see if the solenoids will turn, and if you can spin them around, but it means you've actually got this clip in 180 degrees out. So they won't spin. They should obviously be a bit tighter. It's not going to spin, so they're obviously in the correct direction. Perfect. Now what I'll do is I'll put on the larger of the two upper bodies. The bolts for the ones that actually go all the way through are the long. There are two different sizes there. The smaller ones just bolt on the upper, or the lower bodies here, the big ones. But the upper bodies use those longer bolts. I'm just going to look in underneath, work out how it's going to be orientated. Just get two of those bolts in. Put those in lightly, and now I will put all those other 5 bolts in the interest of saving time. I won't do that now, but they would obviously need to all go in and be torqued. Now what we're going to do is put on this one here. What we're going to do first though is connect the electrical connector to it. The electrical connector is obviously this one here. I've obviously got the major plug. I've actually pulled this apart because I had some problems with it, so I've actually removed the rubber coating, but normally you would expect that to be enclosed. This is the one that's going to go to that solenoid valve on the other side. Inside here is a resistance wire, which is actually the temperature sensor for the transmission. And then obviously we've got all the others there. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to plug this one in, feed that through, put our clip over the top, and now what I'm going to do is put that in underneath, which is a fairly simple process. I'll just need some long bolts. The interest again of saving time, I won't put those other 2 in there, but obviously there'd be 2 more that would be going in there. And now what I can do is just hook up all those other electrical connectors. So that just comes up over the top, and it's pretty obvious where everything goes. They're just going to clip in. I won't actually push these all the way down to save me unclipping them again later, but obviously you would push these all the way home prior to putting it back in the transmission. We've got the input speed sensor that would actually be connected once we put everything inside the transmission, as would the output speed sensor there. Oh yeah, then I hope this helps.